Hello everybody and welcome back to my workshop. So in the previous video we were talking about paper, and in today's video we are going to talk about printing. So let me introduce you to my little friend over here. So there are a few things you have to know when it comes to printing your files. As we're going to print the templates on thick sheets of paper, you have to make sure that your printer can actually handle printing on thick paper. This is a regular sheet of paper, about 80 GSM, and we actually need to print our templates on 250 GSM paper, which is almost like cardstock. So if you don't have a printer yet and you're looking to buy a new one, you have to make sure that you can actually feed the paper from the top, like this one. The reason why we need to feed the paper from the top is that on traditional printers, you would feed on traditional printers, you would feed the paper from the bottom rack, and your sheet of paper would actually have to travel through the printer like this and then turn around, so the printing would be facing on the top. This works when you're using traditional paper because it's really thin and it can handle the curve because it's really flexible. But as we are going to print on a thicker paper, which is much more sturdier and less flexible, if you try to fit this to your regular printer, it would definitely get stuck. That's why you need to feed it from the top. So this way, it's only going like that. The model I'm using here is a Canon Pixma. I think it's IX6850. I think it cost me between 150 and 200 bucks, but I've been using it for years, many years, and I actually never had any problem with it. And if you don't have a printer at home, you can always go to your local printer, which will generally charge you by the number of sheets you want to print. And usually it's pretty cheap. So if you remember, in order to print my baby pineapple, I would need 4 sheets of yellow and 2 sheets of green that I have right here. When you're going to feed the paper into the printer, you have to make sure that it's actually facing the right way. For instance, I have this black paper here that is actually white on the other side, and I would like my printing to be on this side, so I have to put it that way. If I put it this way, the printing would actually be on this side, so you have to be careful. So I'm going to go ahead and print the yellow file first. I am printing it in black and white. If for some reason you have to change some of the settings, you have to make sure that you're going to print all the files using the same settings. Otherwise, your pieces won't be printed on the same scale. And trust me, you don't want to actually realize that they don't match once you have printed them, scored them, and cut them. So be careful. And once you're ready, you just have to hit print. Okay, so everything went pretty well. But what if you wanted to build something using black paper or any dark tone color like brown or purple? Well, I have 1 or 2 tricks for you. If you're lucky, you might be able to find a paper that's the right color on one side and white on the other side, and then you won't have any problem printing on that. One tip I can give you if you're going this way is to actually use a marker to color the edges of the paper. I don't know if you can see it there, but the edges are white, and once you're done building your Papercraft, the white edges are actually going to be visible. So if you didn't color them black first, you will end up with some white lines all over your Papercraft. I only colored the edges of the top pieces using a black marker, and I left the edges of the bottom pieces in white. And as you can see on the bottom section of this pineapple, you can see the white edges showing through. I have to admit that these are really subtle, but if you have an eye for details, you will definitely see them. And I will also suggest you to color them before assembling, because the edges might not be accessible once the Papercraft is done. Another solution would be to ask your local printer, because they might be able to print on dark or black paper using some white ink or silver ink, just like here. And finally, if you were only able to find a paper that's the same color on both sides, one thing you can do is to print your templates on some regular white paper and then just glue them on your black paper. Okay, so just make sure that your templates are actually laying really flat once you glue them, and you should end up with something like this. Anyway, I think I've covered pretty much everything regarding printing, so I'll see you guys in the next video where we'll be talking about scoring.